Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Amazing Race Rewind podcast, the podcast where we go back in time and watch the earliest seasons of The Amazing Race. My name is Andrew,
And I'm Jill.
and we are here today to talk about season one, episode seven. Now, Jill, how would you describe this episode in a few words?
Um, in a few words,
Yeah,
just random words, or do you want a sentence?
adjectives.
Adjectives: chaotic,
Yeah.
emotional, question mark, and directionally based.
Wow.
What about you?
I would say it's unfun, uncomfortable. I think it was a hard episode to watch. I mean, I think the first half was good, but the second half was quite difficult.
It really was.
This is the first time The Amazing Race is going to Asia.
Yeah, 7 episodes into the first season, and we've gone to started in North America, went to Africa, we've been in Europe, back to Africa, back to Europe, and now Asia.
Yeah. This felt like the first real culture shock that we've seen for a lot of teams.
Yes.
And I think it was probably pretty groundbreaking in 2001. Probably a lot of the viewers' introduction to India and or that kind of culture, you know?
I don't know. I mean, the show is shot in a very, this is not specific to India. This is specific to everywhere. The show is shot in a very specific way in which you're exposed to the geography of the places very naturally as a person on the street rather than, I'd say, a tourist. You don't get a lot of the glamour. Like you see teams sleeping in airports, you see teams struggling to get on trains everywhere. It's not glamorized in a sense. So I feel like you see places in a very specific light. Like even I'm thinking back to like episode 1, New York City. It is just the equipment they're filming on, but it's so gray and it just looks so like miserable.
Yeah, it's a lot more real than you would see in a movie about India or New York City or any of these locations they're going on. And even
Exactly.
future seasons of The Amazing Race, it's not like this little cute bubble.
No.
So let's get into the episode then.
Yeah.
So we open with the same thing that we closed with last week of just interviews of everybody. And there's this shot of them at the beginning where everyone's at the same table except for Joe and Bill.
They're really still hammering on about this narrative of the Guidos being the bad team.
Yeah, and something that I thought was interesting, and we were talking about last week how we were looking forward to discussion about the non-elimination and teams' reaction to the non-elimination, but there was no discussion whatsoever about it.
No one seemed to care, or maybe if there was a reaction, it just wasn't big enough to put on camera to include in the cut, but you'd think it would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was really strange to me. So Frank and Margarita start at 3:30 a.m. and we have a detour right off the bat.
But they go for the fast forward.
Yes, they do go for the fast forward, which we haven't seen for how many episodes? Three?
Yeah, I think 3 is about right.
Yeah, it's made a mysterious comeback here.
And their fast forward is they have to get to Ferrara Castle or something, which I forget how far it is from their pit stop. They have to go to this castle, get in a little boat, and row around in the moat of this castle. And the clue is shoved in the walls of this castle, correct?
Yes.
It's actually, it didn't seem too difficult for them.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult because I thought it was going to be actually like hidden within the walls, but it's literally just sticking straight out in plain sight.
It's very, yeah, very obvious. Also, something I maybe you picked up on that shocked me. Does Frank speak Italian? Because he was like
Yeah,
perfectly just conversing with.
he just pulled that out of nowhere.
I know, I was quite impressed.
Yeah, and can I say I feel like Frank has seriously had a character turnaround where the first couple episodes he was very intense and screaming, and now he's talking about needing to get away from the negative energy and is much more calm, I found.
I'm here for it though. Just go where there's only good vibes and good energy, you know? You don't need to get mixed up in all the drama.
Yeah, I think he's a lot more likable these past few episodes than at the beginning. Because I really was not a fan of his at the beginning.
But I mean that really kind of concludes the arc of Frank and Margarita in this episode. Do we want to say where the fast forward tells them to go, or do we want to wait a little bit?
No, you can say.
So yeah, so they get that clue. I think before any of the other teams really start their detour tasks because the detour takes a little bit longer, and the clue sends them to I forget the name of the hotel just near the Taj Mahal in Agra in India. So they do that. They're off, and we really don't see them at all again in the race except for like one little cutaway while the other teams are talking about them, and they're like, oh, the people at the fast forward have such a lead on us. And it just shows Frank and Margarita sitting having drinks on this like hill overlooking the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, I feel like if there's going to be a time to take a fast forward, I think this was definitely the best one. I think they're the most advantaged to take the fast forward than the past ones.
Especially if, half of the issue or the scenarios in this come from traveling to another country. So if you can get that lead on, getting ahead and getting to another country, your 12 hours is putting you ahead by so much.
No, yeah, exactly. It seemed like they were way ahead. And sorry, just to go back, the clue for the fast forward was an amazing piece of poetry. I don't know if you picked up on this, but it reads, "Beside this castle lies a moat. To find this fast forward, hop in a boat."
Sorry, is that poetry or Dr. Seuss?
It's poetry. To me, this moved people around the world. This changed lives, including my own.
Oh wow. I don't know if that's poetry so much as just a rhyme
No, you
built
know,
on two lines.
we can cut this, but what that reminded me of is Harold was hungry, a hungry bear.
What?
Hungry Harold.
That
You-
rings a distant bell.
That was my poem that I wrote in grade six for Speakers Club.
Oh,
I don't know why, but that's what that reminded me of. And just like the simplest rhyme scheme you could think of.
I think you should leave this in. I forgot about
Oh, but I don't, people won't know what I'm talking about.
I think the context of Harold is hungry, a hungry bear, and you doing that for Speakers Club in grade six is all the viewers or the listeners need to know.
Okay, sure.
Anyway, so that's Frank and Margarita's storyline pretty much from start to finish. So let's do a little rewind back to the detour where the other teams are starting out.
Yes. So the detour. Okay, hold on. Before we fully get into that, I want to talk about how Nance and Emily started at 4:59 a.m. and Lenny and Karen started at 5 a.m.
I
Now,
know.
I think this goes into my theory last episode where they couldn't figure out who to really eliminate or how to deal with the production difficulty because I don't think there's any way that they legitimately finished 1 minute apart.
So instead, they just said, okay, you're going to go 1 minute after the last team.
Yeah, just to make it like so they're starting at the same time because they really didn't know who to eliminate, you know?
Fair.
So yeah, they just put them 1 minute behind them. So the detour right off the bat, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a detour straight off the bat is a little is unheard of because usually it's a route info, isn't it?
Usually it is more route info, yeah, to send you somewhere. I wouldn't say it's like unheard of, but I think it's definitely rarer.
So the detour is a choice between glide or ride, where glide is you can take a plane, but it's first come, first serve. Only one team can do it at a time, and it'll take a little bit longer, I suppose, than the other option, which is ride, where you have to bike to the train station. So the goal is to get to a train station. It's just the means in which you choose to get there.
For glide, there's two planes. One is like I think has an engine, and so one team member sits in there, and that plane is pulling this other, honestly, really kind of dinky looking plane, which I don't even know if it has an engine, but it's just kind of being pulled along. And then at some point, the plane that's pulling it detaches the line, and then that other plane just kind of free falls down to the ground. It sounds ridiculous, but the upside to that task, even though you can only go one at a time, is then from there you are directly driven to the train station. Where with the biking one, I think you have to bike 8 kilometers or something.
And you have to navigate yourself with the map. But that
Yeah.
plane thing, I've never seen anything like that. It's like it reminded me of tubing, but with a plane, where it's being pulled.
I don't trust it. Like my fear of heights aside, I don't trust any of the engineering of that task. I would just rather bike 8 kilometers. That's easy.
Yeah, so here we get the idea of you could have a super cool experience, but it could put you behind. And Nancy and Emily bring this up, or you could do like a more mundane task like biking and get there faster. I think this is something that I would kind of grapple with on the race because I would want to do the more thrilling or like the cooler experience or something that I wouldn't be able to do normally, but I wouldn't want to risk being put behind.
That's fair. But if we ended up doing glide, I need you to know that I would be the one in the plane with an engine. I'm not free
That's
falling through the
yeah,
sky.
it's more fun. The person who is free falling seemed to have a lot more fun.
All right, if that's how you want to see it, I'm fine with that.
So let's go to Nancy and Emily, who right at the beginning of the leg, they seem very defeated
Yes.
and just exhausted about always being in the back of the pack, talking about how every leg they think that they're going to be the ones eliminated, or the next leg they're going to get eliminated. They're just filling the room with negative energy here.
And I mean, it would be hard. You'd be so beaten, just always fighting to like they've kind of had no reprieve of coming in they've done okay, but they've never been in first really in that sense of have they? No, they haven't been in first, right?
I think the best they did was they got second in
Yeah.
the desert leg, I think.
Yes, yes. But I mean, if you're doing that and you don't have that, if you never have that break of just not having to worry about if you're going to be out rather than just worrying about if you're first or second or third, like that would be exhausting.
Yeah. So everybody chooses to do the bikes except for Brennan and Rob and Kevin and Drew who do the plane one. And there's not really much to report on with this bike situation other than Nancy and Emily seem to struggle with riding the bikes.
Oh, yeah, I think Emily has a line of something like, my legs are too short.
Oh yeah. And then there's the one scene where they're I think maybe it's Emily who just goes completely off the road and is just going down in the grass.
On the topic of detours, I feel like this one was better slightly. Would you say then, I mean, we didn't even discuss last week's, that shows how we felt about it, but would you say this one was definitely better?
Yeah, I guess so. But still, I like this detour is more of just what means of transportation are you going to take? It's not as much of a task.
That's true.
Yeah, I would say it was okay. Again, it wasn't the most entertaining detour I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So we go over to the plane side of the detour, and not much really happens here other than we have a quote from I think it's Kevin, maybe it's Drew, who when he's getting into the plane, he goes, "You got a cappuccino in here?"
Stereotypical Italian things.
I guess so. And he's
Where's
he's
the
really
fettuccine?
yeah, he's really squished into this plane as well.
Well, is it the glider or the both of the glider and the actual plane are incredibly tiny. Like
Yeah.
fear of heights aside, I would be claustrophobic beyond belief.
So just all around, this is not the one for you.
No.
Do you have anything else for this detour on with either parts of it?
Yeah, like you said, there was a little bit of trouble from the bike riding stuff, but there wasn't anything major that stuck out. I think what we're going to get to is kind of where things really started to pick up a bit, which was, as we mentioned, Frank and Margarita end up in Agra, but the teams are first sent to Delhi. So they complete the task and they have to get to Delhi in India. So that's kind of the next thing is there's this big debate over whether, because they're not near any major airport when they complete these tasks. So it's this debate over should they go to Milan or should they go to Rome? And where will you get a flight quicker?
Yeah, so Joe and Bill and Robin Brennan both choose to go to Rome, but Kevin and Drew decide, why don't we call the airports and see which has a faster flight? And I'm thinking, why didn't everybody do that before?
I know, but what's funny is there. I mean, we'll talk about. There's kind of this little funny situation with the three teams who end up going to Milan in the train. But in the end, doesn't matter which airport they go to.
Yeah,
All the teams have a connecting flight through Copenhagen, and they're all on the same flight to Delhi.
yeah. And when Joe and Bill are asking, when they're in Italy and they're trying to find the closest airport, they ask the closest international aeroporto.
I mean, they're doing well with their Italian. It's just I feel like the international airport and international, like saying international in a completely American accent and then
Yeah.
going aeroporto defeats the purpose a little bit. You know what? Good for them, though. They know more Italian than me, probably.
I think there's a lot of good quotes in this episode. I thought again this
Really? I didn't mark down any.
Oh, I thought I was loving these quotes. I thought the first
Oh,
the first half of the episode at least. So we get this really interesting and fun situation where Kevin is on the phone trying to book their flights for all the Milan.
we should preface that it's Kevin and Drew, Nancy and Emily, and Lenny and Karen are all kind of together in a pack, and he's trying to book tickets for all six of them.
Meanwhile, the train that's going to take them to the airport is pulling up to the station and about to leave. While he's on the phone talking, trying to get these flights booked, everybody else is trying to hold up the train.
I did have actually that's a lie. I had one quote from here, and it was I think Kevin's actually Kevin's on the phone because he just yells to I think Karen or something. He's like, "Tell Drew to make a scene. Drew, make a scene." And then Karen's then yelling that to Drew, "Drew, make a scene," because Kevin's like, he'll hold up the train, like he's
Yeah,
got it.
he's good at that kind of stuff. And also, when Kevin is on the phone, and they're all just standing there. There's a Kevin goes, "Do you guys want some Tic Tacs?" And then Kevin goes, Drew, you gotta go outside. I can't hear what she's saying."
It was a mix of comedy gold here and also intense anxiety. I actually had to turn the sound off for a bit on my laptop because the anxiety, it was too much for me watching this unfold.
Seriously.
I had to have faith that they were gonna go get on their train.
It was very exciting. I will
It
have
was.
to say that. So everybody goes to Copenhagen, like you said, and from there they're on their way to Delhi, as Karen says.
Yeah, Delhi. So the clue sends them to a market in Delhi.
Yeah, and we're back here with the same sped up footage that we had last time for the way to the market. I don't know why this bothers me so much. It should not bother me this much, but it does.
That's fair. It's not an aesthetic choice for everyone.
No. So yeah, everybody makes their way to the market. And then once they get there, it is the roadblock, unless you have any notes for the journey there.
Yeah, no, I think we can just get right into the roadblock. So what is the clue for the roadblock again? It's something about who's good with directions, right?
Yeah, so it's for a person with a good sense of direction. And yes, Jill, that's you. And which is, yeah, the same as last week's roadblock, which was had to do with navigation and directions. So the task is to hire a rickshaw driver to take them to a specific shop in a busy market, to which the man at the shop will show them a model of the Taj Mahal and give them their clue, which states to go to the Taj Kima Hotel.
See, I didn't understand this task in the sense that it's asking for someone who's good with directions, but they literally just hired a driver who took them where they needed to go. They had no map. They weren't in charge of any of the directions, really. The most that some people had to do was just talk to a lot of people on the street to try and figure out where to go to this shop.
So yeah, I don't know what kind of navigation was required here.
None really. Nothing else really happens in this market here. I wouldn't say there's any big schmoz. I'd say the intensity of the episode starts when all the teams come back and meet up with their team partner and then have to get to the Taj Mahal, which is in Agra and they're in Delhi.
Yeah, I will say though that this roadblock does seem very overwhelming.
It does.
But
It's in a very crowded market that's very
yeah,
busy.
a foreign land where not many people speak English. It's Nancy especially was struggling with this. So everybody completes the roadblock and they go back to their partners in the taxi and they have to try and figure out where the Taj, what is it called? Taj something hotel?
Kima?
Taj Kima Hotel, yeah.
And see, everyone was kind of trying to ask taxi drivers or locals or residents where the Taj Kima is. Where's the Taj Kima Hotel? I feel like they would have had better luck finding people who knew where they were supposed to go if they had just started with Taj Mahal.
I agree. I don't know why that's not what people were doing because unless they just weren't sure that that was the Taj Mahal that they were shown.
You'd think, though. I mean, Bill and Joe, I think, were the ones who kind of had a leg up here because one of them, I forget who, he just knew instantly that they would have to go to Agra and it wasn't
Yeah.
going to be in Delhi.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of the conflict this episode comes with trying to figure out how to get to this hotel where a lot of the teams are in their taxis and there's a lot of chaos around them. It's a very busy street. They're trying to ask the locals where to go. Not many people speak English. I have to say, I think a lot of the footage and the filming was done with not the best taste. A lot of it did feel kind of exploitative with the way that they were filming just like these children on the street.
Yeah, I would say wasn't in an ethical manner.
No, I don't think so at all. But again, this is 2001 here.
Just to add to that, I know for a fact that, in most places, I think where the rules could be different for reality TV. I wouldn't imagine they're too different though. But for most any sort of media that's filmed in Canada or in the US especially, probably throughout most of the world actually, if you're on camera for rule of thumb longer than 3 seconds, but just basically if you're on any camera long enough that you can be identified by your face
Hmm.
on any sort of media, they typically the show or the producer needs permission of that individual to be on camera. And that was something that was just shown a complete disregard for here.
Yeah, there's no way they were getting these people to sign a release because there were so many people just shown with their faces here.
For an extended period of time on the
Yeah.
camera.
So yeah, this is where a lot of the uncomfiness or the uncomfortability, I think, comes in the episode.
Discomfort?
Just yeah, that would
Uncomfortability?
uncomfortability. Put it in the
No,
dictionary.
I'm sorry to tangent here. It scares me how much I've heard that word in the past couple weeks.
Uncomfortability. Put it in the dictionary. Is that in the dictionary?
I don't know. Give me a second. Uncomfortable is a word, and discomfort, what is uncomfortability, is I'm not gonna trust. Yeah, no. I would say uncomfortability is not a word because this looks like a very sketchy Wikipedia article that doesn't look real. Discomfort and uncomfortable are words.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say discomfort is probably a little bit more appropriate.
So there's a grammar lesson.
Yeah, little side note there. So yeah, a lot of the discomfort comes with this, where a lot of people are getting fed up because the locals don't really know English well. And I think a root of this problem is probably the cameras, where I think even at one point the camera's like on a little boy and he's like saying about, oh, I'm gonna be in a movie or something. So I think that's where a lot of this like crowding stemmed from.
But it's, it's I think we brought this up before, maybe episode 1 or 2, but it's again that thing of reality TV is just not a thing at this time. And it's you don't have iPhones and other smartphones the way we do now. So a camera is a spectacle anywhere. It's something I find quite funny though. It's especially, I mean, this is modern. I'm talking in modern times. Everyone has a camera, everyone has a cell phone. But the minute you have an actual digital camera or even a film camera out, people still get weird. And nobody thinks about the fact is everyone carries a camera, everyone has a cell phone. But the minute they see a photography camera or a film camera, they just get so weird. It's weird. It's just crazy to me.
Are you speaking from like experience here of you filming stuff?
Yeah, and it's something that we talk about quite a bit actually, because you'll go somewhere to try and film and you'll have your digital camera and the employees or whatever will come over and be like, oh, like, what are you doing? Like, is this, they just get so weirded out and they kind of get uncomfortable. And you're kind of like, sir, like everyone here has a cell phone. Everyone
Yeah.
could be doing the exact same thing. The only difference is I've got a digital camera that's bigger with a lens on.
That's true. Because yeah, I was thinking like I guess with a big digital camera, it's more of like a serious thing. It's probably going to be broadcast to a lot more people, but people are posting videos on social media with their phones that are probably going to get a lot more views than something that's on a big digital camera.
Exactly. Everyone has a camera nowadays, but for some reason, people are still just, and I mean, I guess I'm used to cameras. I don't react to them anymore. Like they're normal, but that's something I think not enough people are aware of, don't get weirded out by the digital camera that's shooting a very specific frame over there when like the 20 people standing around you all have cameras as well.
That's true. That's a good point.
I don't know. That's just what that kind of makes me think of too.
So do you want to talk about Nancy and Emily in the taxi?
I feel for them because I think, even at the start of the episode, we were discussing how they're already kind of tired and overwhelmed. And I think you just get to a point where you just want a break. And I think that's kind of what they hit that breaking point here where they just need a break. They just need to be alone in the quiet, have time to rest and recuperate and eat and just sit. And they're not able to get that.
Yeah, so they're in a taxi. There's a lot of locals crowding around their taxi. They're trying to ask for directions and ask for directions, and nobody's really helping them because like a language barrier is obviously a huge thing here. And yeah, it gets a little intense. They're both crying and just completely overwhelmed. And this was really hard to watch for several reasons.
The list, you want to list the reasons?
Well, one of the reasons being there was a little bit of insensitivity towards the locals was one of the reasons.
True.
And just watching people break down like this, you can tell they're just emotionally exhausted and completely overwhelmed is hard to watch.
It's like you're witnessing someone's breaking point.
And yeah, we also see this with Lenny and Karen. Karen flips out on her taxi driver a bit. She flips out on Lenny saying that he does nothing. And Lenny is he's just been a punching bag this entire time. Lenny will just yell at him and he just remains quiet. I
Karen
feel
will yell at
bad for him.
Lenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. You like I said, you just saw people's breaking points. You saw people at the end of the line.
Yeah. So this whole scene of teams trying to get to the pit stop is a mess. Do you have anything else before we get to the pit stop here?
I no, I don't. I feel like other than those two teams, the others kind of figured it out. They got to the pit stop, whatever. Moving on to the pit stop, I will say this is probably one of my favorite pit stops. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's on a hill overlooking the Taj Mahal in the distance. It's yeah, breathtaking.
Yeah. And just to talk about Frank and Margarita's advantage, it was like broad daylight when they got there, but all the other teams are checking in at night. So
I'm interested to see what their time lead will be, like how much time they have on the team. Who's in second? Bill and Joe?
yes.
No,
No, Bill and Joe.
Rob and Brennan are third then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much time they have on them because I feel like it's going to be quite a bit.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the most significant gap that we've seen thus far. But we don't really see any of the teams' journey or how well they're doing versus the other teams. This is where it would be nice to have the currently in third place, currently in fourth place or whatever. Because coming out of the roadblock, I think Lenny and Karen were the second ones out of the roadblock and they end up being the ones eliminated. So when teams were coming to the pit stop, it was pretty much just random luck. Like we had no idea who was going to be coming next.
No, I mean I don't mind it at this point, especially I think in the second to last elimination, the camera, you can see two figures
Yeah.
approaching the pit stop, but it's out of focus. and it's in the dark, so you just know that there's two people there, and it's kind of building that anticipation of who's it going to be, who's it going to be, who's going to be safe, and it is Nancy and Emily. They stay in the race, so I liked that. It added to the dramatic effect.
That was good camera work. But I thought this was Nancy and Emily's last leg. I thought they were done, but
Me too.
yeah, because Nancy and Emily really seem to be struggling the most.
I think for them, it's going to be get a good sleep, have a good meal, rest, relax, and be ready for the next leg.
Yeah. So yeah, Joe and Bill are in second, Robin Brennan in third, Kevin and Drew in fourth, Nancy and Emily in fifth. And we see that Lenny is sick here. He's throwing up or something outside the car.
Oh, I actually missed that. I don't know how I
Yeah.
did, but
So yeah, ultimately Karen and Lenny are eliminated. And this is the most brutal post-elimination interview we've seen this season, where Karen is absolutely just going in on Lenny and their relationship.
I don't want to get too personal because at the end of the day, this is someone's life. But to me, it sounded like a
It
breakup.
totally was. Yeah. So, yeah, we pretty much see them decide that the relationship is over in this moment.
I mean, we could be wrong too. Like, I'm not gonna go research this,
Yeah.
whatever they wanted to do after the show is totally up to them, and I'm not gonna be nosy. But it was, yeah, very honestly, almost
Yeah,
too
it was like,
honest.
wow, what a way to end their race.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen says that she feels like she gave 110% every minute of the race, and she feels like that Lenny didn't. And Lenny just stands there. It's not great. So they're eliminated. We're down to our final five now, looking to next week. We're staying in India.
That'll be fun.
I think so. Do you have any predictions for the coming weeks? Because we still have two non-eliminations to get through with five teams left.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, Rob and Brennan have used the fast forward, correct?
Yes.
So out of the five teams left, have the Guidos used
No.
fast forward? So Guidos haven't used it, and Nancy and Emily. I think this next leg, I think Nancy and Emily might play the fast forward, but I don't feel like they're gonna, or maybe they won't. I kind of feel like they're gonna be eliminated.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like it's the four that are in the lead have done exceedingly well this whole race, and I feel like they're gonna be the ones that it comes down
Yeah,
to.
I think so as well. I'm thinking a final three of Robin Brennan, Joe and Bill, and Frank and Margarita. That's what I'm thinking.
I see. I can't pick a final three yet, like them and Kevin and Drew, because they all do so well, and they all kind of can surprise, like they all kind of can come on top of each other very surprisingly.
Yeah, that's true. I could see Kevin and Drew being in the final three, but who knows really. But are they going to do a non-elimination leg next week? Do you think I feel like it's going to be a pattern of like non-elimination leg, elimination, non-elimination, elimination?
I think so, probably, because I mean, didn't you read up so that there has to be two more, or maybe there's just one more?
Well, no, because they say last episode they said it was the first of three non-elimination legs.
Right, so they need to just use them up essentially.
Yeah.
I do think next week though that Nancy and Emily will be eliminated for good.
Yeah, I think I can't see them lasting very long. They're just absolutely spent.
Don't blame them though. I
And
don't
also
blame
there was
them.
the thing with it where the people wouldn't sell them tickets because over like sexism. That was a thing.
Yes, so this is in a preview to next week. In the narration, it says that Nancy and Emily encounter issues because they're trying to buy tickets, but the ticket vendor will not sell to either of them because they're women. So that will be part of next week's episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think other than that, there's nothing really else to
Yeah,
add.
that was it for this episode. Again, it was quite heavy. Not the most fun episode, I thought, but
No, definitely
yeah,
not.
especially after how great last week's was. But as always, you can follow us on Instagram at Amazing Race Rewind or send us an email at amazingracerewind@gmail.com.
We love to hear from you.
Yes. And with that, we'll see you next week for episode 8.
All right, bye.